You're listening to Free Zone Radio. Two minor characters, a coin that keeps coming up heads, and a creeping suspicion that none of this makes sense. From Free Zone Radio, I'm Jason Crockett, and this is Second Stage. Tom Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead is one of the sharpest, strangest, and funniest plays I think I've ever encountered, and probably one of the most unsettling. It begins with two side characters from Shakespeare's Hamlet. In that tragedy, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are childhood friends of Hamlet's who have been summoned to spy on the prince and report his motives to the king, Hamlet's evil stepfather, or step-uncle, funkle, something. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern end that play by unwittingly sailing to England with a note imparting that these men should be put to death. But in Stoppard's play, the two bewildered men are elevated to the status of protagonists, who have once again been summoned. But to where? For what purpose? And why? While they wait, they fill the silence with logic games, wordplay, and wildly philosophical questions. They are stuck, adrift, and hilariously, tragically unaware of it. And honestly, for a lot of us, I think that feeling hits close to home. Because lately, looking at the stage of our world, the endless bad decisions, the absurd headlines, the shouting, strange sense that we're all improvising without a script, it can feel like we're living in a nonsensical madhouse play ourselves. Well, maybe that's what makes this absurdist masterpiece so worth revisiting now. In this week's episode, we're diving into that existential humor, the philosophical chaos, and the reasons that this play rarely makes it into the classroom, even though it absolutely should. We'll talk about why Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead deserves a spot beside Shakespeare, why it speaks so powerfully to students and teachers and parents and anybody online who feels caught in the wings instead of in the spotlight, and ideas for how you actually teach it in a way that works. Today, I'm joined by a co-teacher who has seen more existential crises in her sophomore classes than any performed in the Grand Guignol. And she brings a casual wit, her Southern wisdom, and just enough Catholic guilt to make this fun.
Hi, I'm Courtney Ferris. I teach 10th grade students in English 2. And I think that plays matter in the classroom because when the kids can see something being acted out, they make a better connection to the literature itself. It's important, these plays, for students to see them and read them and understand them so that they have a broader sense of the human experience.
So maybe we can't make sense of the world, and maybe we can't even make sense of the stage we're standing on. But we can laugh at it, question it, and just maybe learn something from it. Learning from two confused Elizabethans who will teach us about our own absurd age and why this strange little play might be exactly what our classrooms need right now. Multiple redeemable qualities. Part of me thought we should start out this episode where we were just flipping coins for a while and just see what happens.
Yeah. How many times do you think we'd get heads?
But then I was going to be terrified. What if it's like 172 times it keeps coming up heads? And then I'm like, oh God, I'm in purgatory. Can't get out.
This would be it for sure, right? This would be it. Not quite heaven, not quite hell.
Right. So here we are on another episode of Second Stage, where we reimagine what performs in the high school classroom. And today I'm lucky enough to get to sit with one of my co-teachers that I've become so good a friend with over the last few years, Courtney Ferris. You and I and Drew Haston, we joke often about being the three different grand divisions of Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you were going to be a grand division of Tennessee, which grand division are you?
I think as much as I've come to love living in Middle Tennessee, and I say it's very unique, and I really have a soft spot for it in my heart. I'm really always going to be West Tennessee.
Why are you a West Tennessee girl?
I think I have a big, huge connection to the land and like the culture, and that kind of, it's just different. I mean, I know that people say that and it's cliched and corny and all that, but it's just a different kind of thing. I mean, the Delta kind of pulls you home constantly. No matter where you are, it pulls you there.
Yeah. Do you know, I've never been to West Tennessee before.
Oh, Crockett.
I'm trying to think of what's the furthest west I've been. Ooh, I don't know that I've been far west past Clarksville. That may be the furthest west, which is not very west at all.
It's flat. Now, we are flat. Mm-hmm. We are flat. But we can grow anything. Like, there's rice paddies in West Tennessee.
I never knew that.
Yeah. I mean, cotton is king. There's rice. We've got, typical corn and soybeans. Soybeans is one of the big cash crops in West Tennessee. So the land is really fertile, but that has to do with the large amount of water and like marshland in that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then it's got all of the, you've got Memphis and you've got the Mississippi and everything over there too.
Mm-hmm. Birthplace of rockabilly, Jackson, Tennessee.
Hey, yeah. We really do need to do a Tennessee history podcast.
Oh, my gosh.
And where every episode it's you, and then it's Drew, and then it's me, and then it's you. And Drew, I mean, we just do different, I don't know, little mini episodes about whatever.
It would be fun.
I think we need to start that. Like, I don't have enough editing to do.
Yeah. Plus grading papers and being a dad and a husband.
I'm literally like a stack behind right here on my page right now.
It's essay season.
So this week we're talking about Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. Are you at all familiar with this play before I asked you to read it?
I wouldn't say familiar, like as in I'd read it, because I hadn't read it. But I knew of it and the concept of it. And I have mentioned it in passing over the past couple of years to my students when we're reading Hamlet. When we talk about the characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, I'll always tell them that there's a play written about them.
Yeah.
And that we won't read it. So, but now, I mean, I wasn't sure why, I guess, really, but I don't know. It's intriguing now.
Which we'll get to that, but part of me kind of wants to just give it a spin sometime and maybe not like study the whole play, but at least like show it as like a capstone thing to Hamlet. Because once you have an appreciation for all the characters and then you get into Stoppard's play, it's like a whole new thing. Mm-hmm. What do you know about Tom Stoppard?
Absolutely nothing. Right? I was like, who?
But I mean, so one of the things that I had on here is that the man, he began his career in journalism. He began actually in his youth running from the Nazis. He and his family fled from the Nazi advances. Then he comes to India and then finally Britain. He starts work in journalism and finally gets into theater. But the man eventually becomes so influential in his own style that we refer to works as Stoppardian. Because of his witty wordplay and these philosophical musings. And I don't know, this is reverent but probing look at humanity. And yet we almost never talk about him in high school classrooms. And I don't know, in pop culture, certainly in my circles, I just never hear about him.
Now, having read this now, it surprises me that when I took Shakespeare in college as an English major, that this was never mentioned alongside Hamlet.
Where did you have your Shakespeare classes?
UT Martin.
UT Martin. Yeah. Who was your professor for Shakespeare?
He is a man named Dr. Neil Graves.
Yes.
He has his PhD in Shakespearean studies.
Was it a good experience?
Oh my God, he was the greatest.
Why?
Absolutely the greatest. Well, number one, he was obsessed with Shakespeare. Number two, he just had a way of being able to like walk us through it so that, I mean, we all were like together in it and understood what was going on. And I don't know, he had us kind of mesmerized. He was just,
Did y'all ever get to do like monologues or anything, or was it like a survey course or what?
It was a survey course, but he would dissect everything and we would look at specific, monologues or soliloquies or, he was really, when I graduated, he was really big into writing this paper about Shakespeare's sonnets. Like he had discovered that if you took the first line from the first 14 of Shakespeare's sonnet and you put them together, that it made another sonnet that made sense.
Oh.
So, like this, Roy Neil Graves was a genius. He's still living. He's retired now, but yeah, he was really into his research and writing that. Like,
I want to go dig that up now. I want to see what that looks like to put those first 14
I don't know if
together.
he ever published the paper or not. I mean, I would suspect he did because he was the kind of person that he didn't start something and not finish it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was pretty intriguing.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. I've had so many good teachers in my life. And one of my influential professors was Dr. Kurt Eisen, who taught theater in his literature classroom. I had him for 2 sequences of American Lit. And I mean, we read different things. We read The Awakening by Kate Chopin and whatnot. But he also used plays. And then I took a drama class that he co-taught with Mark Creeder, and it was all drama, and just other courses. And looking at my closet now, I'm finding these textbooks from my time at Tennessee Tech, and a lot of my lit books are drama books that have just stacks of plays. And then when I go to teach, it's like with my AP class, I've realized, oh yeah, I remember that play. I remember that play. So I have like an open door to use them. And it harkens back to what Dr. Eisen did with us, as well as my summer Shakespeare with Dr. Shirley Laird, a legend at Tennessee Tech, what Mark Creeder taught us in theater. We just had so many of these good influences that I kind of wanted to do the same thing with a show where it's like, well, why don't we talk more about plays like this? So I love that you have that same kind of thing, too, with your summer Shakespeare. Was it a summer Shakespeare?
No, it was a semester-long class.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because our summer Shakespeare was a play a day, and you had to move on because you only had like 20-some days.
No, it was a night class even. So we were there, Tuesday, Thursday, 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
And, that was back in the mid-'90s, so halfway through, everybody'd get a smoke break.
That's right.
And Dr. Graves would be out there with us smoking and talking about Shakespeare still. Like, it was like just one long class.
That's right. Way back when, kids.
Way back when, nobody vaped. We had real cigarettes, and the world was good.
Yeah. Stoppard's play is an example of absurdist theater. Are you at all familiar with absurdist theater?
Not really.
But we talked about this yesterday at lunch, and the great thing, whether you're ever familiar with absurdist theater or not, I think we as human beings realize that there are points in our life that are just utterly absurd.
Exactly.
And we exist in these scenarios, and it's like, man, why? Why is this the way things are? And that life is sometimes absurd.
Is often absurd.
Is often. We need to change that qualifier. Absurdist theater kind of like branches out from these other formal kinds of theater in that it doesn't always have to have this strict story of morality. It doesn't have to have a strict, story of plot that leads to a justifiable outcome. It doesn't affirm that there is a justice in the universe or anything, but instead that it highlights the silliness or the absurdity or the headaches or the wackiness of what goes on in our life.
Well, this is absurd. I mean, it is absurd. But I think at the same time, while you say that absurdist theater doesn't follow a certain set of rules and it doesn't have to do this and it doesn't have to do that, somehow Tom Stoppard, for me as a reader, manages to convince me that this is also, it is about a moral dilemma that they're in. They don't know it, I don't think. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
They don't know it. But there is a moral dilemma here that they're dealing with. And the fact that they, don't know where they are half the time and they don't know how they got there. There's just, that part is absurd. And then the dialogue, there's, a lot of dialogue that you're thinking, are you sure your name's not Polonius? Because that's who you sound like right now. And I don't really like him very much. But you guys, I feel kind of sad for because you're kind of pitiful. But yeah, I think that even though it's not necessarily what you call a requirement or a rule, Stoppard manages to do a lot of what plays are intended to do, but then be absurd as well.
There was a page, I was trying to think, this one works fine too, but in my copy of it, it's like around page 65, and it's where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, of course, are back and forth. And Rosencrantz goes on about a Christian, a Muslim, and a Jew chance to meet in a closed carriage. Silverstein cried the Jew. And when you're looking at it, it's like almost a page of text. So it very much is a Polonius when you're just going on and on with these lines. It makes me reminded that when we see theaters, when we teach theater or Greek tragedy, there's a duality of it. You always see the comedy with the tragedy. Mm-hmm. And theaters are often bedecked with those masks of the smiley face with the sad face. Mm-hmm. And comedy and tragedy go hand in hand. Comedy is often masking our despair and our tragedy for things. So I think absurdist theater fits in there too, that, sometimes we just don't have answers for things. We have a lot of questions, and the universe is just... It's crazy. It's hectic. It's a big letdown sometimes. And sometimes you just laugh about things too.
If you're not going to laugh, you're going to cry. So you have to do one or the other.
You have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah. If you think about it though, comedy it's a lot like tragedy because it's emotion. It's so emotional, right? Think about actors that we enjoy watching on the screen. Some of the best comedians also became the best dramatic actors. I always think about Robin Williams. I always think of Robin Williams, how funny he was when I was a kid, and he was in Mork and Mindy, and then how when I was a teenager he was constantly breaking my heart in things like Dead Poet Society, or just that whole range of emotion is, I think, part of what makes comedy so relatable to tragedy, because you have to be able to feel for both of those.
I'm really glad you brought up Robin Williams. I think we as high school teachers, as ELA teachers, far more teach tragedy than we ever do comedy. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Yes, I have a theory. I think that tragedy appeals to students. And I think tragedy appeals to people. I always talk about with the kids when we are reading second semester, like we as human beings, because we talk about this, catharsis, the idea of catharsis when we do Greek theater. We talk about the fact that people are drawn to tragedy because it kind of is a way for us to purge emotions that we might have, piled up inside of us, or we can't express otherwise. It gives us that sense of catharsis. At the end, we can say, wow, that was really sad and awful, but I feel a little bit better because I got something out from reading that. And I think it's part of human nature that we kind of focus on those things that are sad, because we spend so much of our time trying to convince ourselves that everybody goes through the same thing. And when you read anything that's tragic, or you watch a tragedy, or you watch somebody else experience tragedy in literature, you can realize that this is the same experience for everybody. It happens to everybody in different ways, but we can all find that commonality, and tragedy it happens to everyone. Not everybody's going to fall in love and grow up and have, this wonderful, perfect life, but everybody's going to experience some sort of tragedy in their lives. And so they can relate to that. We can relate to that. It's part of the human experience.
Yeah. I was thinking about that same thing on the way to work this morning with, it's an overly complicated story, and I'm not going to bore you and other listeners, but it was just a chain of thoughts that led one into another. And why do I not trust this person? And why does that, you're obviously a bad guy if you're going to be blah, blah. And it reminded me of characters that I've read and scenes that I've seen in plays, and just a whole host of experiences that I've had through reading and through watching plays and through the movie performances of these books that I've read. And when you read enough, I don't want to be a cliche, but you do develop an empathy for other people's lives that you've never had the chance to live. I didn't live in Calpurnia's life in To Kill a Mockingbird, but I can develop an empathy for people like Calpurnia when I read her story and I see certain situations. And just the more you read, the more empathetic you become to the human experience.
What was that commercial when we were kids? The more you read, the more you know.
Oh, classic, right? And I'm really glad you brought up Robin Williams, because if we're talking about comedy and tragedy, Robin Williams is the first example that comes to my mind. Mm-hmm. He was always iconic for his comedy in the 80s and 90s, and yet he left us far too soon. And I saw a video the other day where he was being interviewed, I guess in the late 80s, early 90s, and his mom is next to him. And that Robin Williams was crediting his mother with where he gets a lot of his humor from, and that his mom would do this little silly gag, like she found a string in her nose and would just pull it out. And she's standing next to him and she goes, "Oh, you mean like," and Robin Williams starts cracking up in the most genuine laughter you've ever heard. And he's like, no, she's going to do it. No. And here's this laughter. And yet, he's a person that's suffering, and we wouldn't have known it until it happened. Mm-hmm. And that we as teachers see that with our kids all the time too, that people are really good at hiding their suffering. Mm-hmm. And I mean, right now we're talking about this being National Suicide Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And you try to have open, empathetic conversations with your students, your peers, your loved ones, that we all suffer, we all experience tragedy. The universe doesn't always give us an answer for why things happen the way that they do. It is absurdist in a way. And yet you are not alone. And you want them to know that we care about them. But people are so good at hiding their trauma, their tragedy. And what do they mask it with? Comedy.
Yeah.
I also don't remember who I was talking to about this the other day, but it's like, Jason, why are you the funny one in this group of your family members? Why, that kind of thing. What is it about some of our comedians? Is it that we grew up learning to cover up some of the things that we were very sensitive about? Is that why we leaned in on the funny as opposed to other things? Maybe so. I don't know. That you're just masking some self-confidence issues or whatever. But that comedy is a mask for tragedy.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about this week's play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Why don't you tell us what happens in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern? What's this play about?
Well, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they start out in a featureless nowhere. They're flipping coins that come up heads again and again and again, and they don't have any memory at all of how they arrived there. They find it to be strange, and fragments of their past seem to flicker back, but never fully. In the unreal zone of the wilderness, they encounter the player, familiar person does, mm-hmm. and his troupe of actors whose eerie performance blurs the line between play acting and reality. And then without warning, they're pulled toward Elsinore Castle, where they step into the scenes from the play Hamlet. It's already happening. They meet the queen, the king, Polonius, and Hamlet himself, often repeating conversations or having moments of philosophical debate and struggling to recall what's already happened. By the end, they are sent on a voyage to England, carrying sealed orders, only to discover that the orders now demand their own deaths. And they gradually realize that they're trapped in a story already written, compelled to follow its path toward their deaths.
Anybody who's read or watched Hamlet or taught Hamlet, we already know that.
Yeah.
Like, we already know that.
The titles, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, are dead.
They tell you from the beginning, these guys are dead.
They're dead.
So it shouldn't be a shock. And yet, I remember having watched this play once early on in a lit class in college. Mm-hmm. I don't remember much about the experience. But I remember my honors Brit Lit class, I think it was, talked about it, and we watched scenes from it. But still, here I am 30 years later, and I went to go watch it on Tubi, and I just started feeling anxiety like, oh, man, they're already dead, and they don't know it.
They don't even know.
Yes, Jason, you've taught this play how many times? They die. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you expected out of it.
Everybody dies. Everybody.
It's a tragedy. They're going to wind up dead. It's kind of like when I watched that movie Titanic.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And yet, when the iceberg's approaching and they get to the music of dun, 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 I'm thinking, he's going to miss it this time. He's going to miss it.
History's going to rewrite itself.
But therein, there's no changing some of these things. I thought it was ironic that he picked Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to be the main characters when they are not at all the main characters of Hamlet's play. Do you Do you even think of them as secondary characters? Like, where do you rank them in Hamlet?
No, I don't even really think of them as secondary characters. They're pawns to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I maybe make a mistake in presenting them that way. I mean, we tell the kids when we talk about the play that they're supposed to be the comedic relief. And I say to me, they're just kind of silly. They serve their purpose and then they're gone, right? And then I always say to the kids, and guess what? This is a tragedy and they're probably not going to have a happy ending, right? So, no, I don't think they're secondary characters. But I agree with you. I do think it's really interesting he chose these two. But now reading it and having my own thoughts about what he might really be trying to say, it's not as surprising as it might have once been.
Yeah. If I were thinking through Hamlet, Polonius counts as a secondary character. Horatio counts as a secondary character. Ophelia, even in my heart, feels like a secondary character. I don't know. Maybe she's in the gray zone. She's a pawn too, bless her. But Ophelia has so much more substance in my heart than Rosencrantz and Guildenstern do.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're pawns.
They are.
Even Hamlet approaches them and
says,
Sponges, yes. And right from the get-go says, were you not sent for? And they admit we were sent for.
Yeah, they're not even smart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, at least my daddy always used to say, if you're going to be bad, at least be good at it. And they are not even good at it. You know what I mean? Like, they are not even good at it. Show up on a train, then tell people, yeah, I was sent for, of course.
Yeah.
Not really doing a good job.
I also like Stoppard's choices for some of the characters that he really wants to feature. Like, we get Rosencrantz and Guildenstern as the mains. Most of the screen time is them. But you also get the player, who in Hamlet is often called the player king, but here he's the player. Why is he so significant in Hamlet?
Because he helps to further Hamlet's his agenda, right? I think he's significant in this play because he plays the role of devil's advocate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? He's cringeworthy, obviously. His actions are cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you guys have this moral compass? Are you willing to go this route? I mean, is this what you want? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You can watch this kind of play or you can participate in this kind of play. And they're given choices over and over again. I
thought it was cool that in Hamlet, when the tragedians show up, that they distract Hamlet with, oh, hey, look, actors are here. And he really takes the bait with that. It's like, oh, okay, actors. And he sees a connection with the player king, that this guy can be a vehicle for what I want to do to trap my uncle. But he's also really inspired by his acting. Polonius says, oh, this speech is too long. He just jabbers, which is
irony.
Huge irony. But Hamlet is inspired by the player king. And then we only get that brief snippet of him. He's gone after the mousetrap scene. But in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, he appears over and over and over. And sometimes kind of like in these weird poofs of appearance that he's just suddenly there.
You mean like in a barrel on a ship?
Like in a barrel on a ship, right?
But then he displeased the king. So what do you think that means?
We get brief appearances by Hamlet. We get brief appearances by Claudius. And the other actors who typically just don't have anything to say. They're just like pantomimes. They're actors for whatever the player is doing here. Polonius, again, has plenty of things to say when he gets his on-time screen. But yeah, why do you, before we talk about the play itself, why do you think this is so rarely used in high school classrooms of any caliber?
I think because we already work so hard to get them to understand Hamlet, right? Because the language, let's be real, the language in this is complicated, right? They struggle to understand texts that are this sort of complex, right? So to add this on top of, because I don't see this as something you could teach as a standalone. It would have to be in conjunction with or after you've done Hamlet. And that's a lot for a group of kids. I mean, if you've got maybe an honors class, but you're just your standard everyday run-of-the-mill 10th grade class, you're asking those kids a lot to do both of those in one
Especially so much so with Hamlet.
Yes. It does give me hope, though, because every year since I've been here, I always do a survey at the end of the semester and say, what was your favorite thing that you read in 10th grade? It could be anything from either semester. And 90% of the kids say their favorite is Hamlet.
Nice.
So,
okay.
that is encouraging. Maybe they can, because there's some perspectives that I think are worth showing them from this piece.
I kind of inherited a pacing guide from previous teachers, and we've built upon it and improved it. And I really like that we still kind of leave Hamlet as our last thing for 10th grade, because everything builds up to the crescendo of here's Shakespeare's play, Hamlet. My gut tells me that Hamlet is kind of like anything you want to talk about with Shakespeare, it's in Hamlet. Anything you want to talk about with the human experience, you're going to find it in Hamlet. If you like Star Wars, great, we got sword fights. If you like murder and palace intrigue, we've got it in this too.
If you like romance, we got that too.
Romance, if you, if you like silliness, we've got that in here too. So Hamlet has everything. How long in your classroom do you typically go through Hamlet? Because I know it's at the end of the school year.
We usually start right around or right after we're done with EOCs, and then it goes to the end. So 6 weeks probably. Because it takes a lot of time.
That's a chungus of time.
It is.
But Hamlet requires that kind of focus. So then you would be thinking, well, how would I add something else like this to an already tight window?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be our common answer to this question every episode is we're already pressed for time.
Where are we going to find the time for that?
You're 100% right, too. You should not teach this play in isolation of Hamlet.
Yeah.
How do they have a rich appreciation for the play unless they already know what goes on with Hamlet? Do you think that people in general have a familiarity with Hamlet, whether or not they've ever read the play?
I think, yes, a lot of people do. Because they've seen things like The Lion King. There's so many references to Hamlet and Oryx, in his, not really Oryx interaction, but, that whole scene. Everybody's to be or not to be. Everybody's kind of familiar with that. So, but Rosencrantz and Guildenstern isolated, I don't think that if you were to say something to someone about the characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they wouldn't even remember who you're talking about. Hamlet himself or the play in general, yes.
Yeah. I was thinking if the Backdoor Playhouse at Tech put this on, or if TPAC or somebody put this on, and my wife and I went to go see it, and she knew nothing about Hamlet, because she read it probably once in high school, but that was, however many years ago. And if we went to go watch it, she's probably going to appreciate the play, but is she going to love it as much as somebody who already has that informed background?
Right. I told you what happened at our house, didn't
I? Briefly. Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, so I walked in one day, and my husband was watching on Tubi Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And I said, dude, you are not going to understand what's going on here. And he goes, why not? It's not bad. And I said, no, but you're not going to have all the references that you need. I said, because when have you read Hamlet? And he said, well, never. I said, well, then you probably should just turn it off, because you're going to waste about 2 hours of your time. Because the scene that he was watching when I came in, Claudius and Gertrude were walking. It was right where they just found themselves at Elsinore Castle, and Gertrude and Claudius are coming in and talking to them about how they want Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to spy on Hamlet. And Andrew was like, well, why? What? And I was like, nope, I don't have time to teach you Hamlet right now, so just turn it off.
I feel like a lot of us, when we get really sucked into a fandom, because as English teachers who love our English, we are sucked into a fandom of Shakespeare. If it's a fandom of Lord of the Rings, if it's a fandom of Jurassic Park, and you're sitting with somebody and it's like, this forward and backward, you're waiting for them to stumble upon some details. But dude, I don't have 6 weeks to tell you why this matters in all these ways.
Yeah. Truth.
So you have a lot of things that you wanted to discuss about your take on the play or whatever. What's one thing you wanted to talk about?
Okay, well, I think we talked about this kind of at lunch yesterday, but I feel like this is totally representative of purgatory. They're trapped in some sort of purgatory. And from the very beginning, Stoddard Stoppard, gives us that idea by saying that they are in a time, in a place without any visible character, right? And so that kind of sets the stage for that they're in some sort of limbo situation, right? So we know they're dead. They're in some sort of limbo situation. So then you have to think, well, why are they there? Like, what is it that has caused them to be there? Because I look at this through a weird kind of lens, because I do have to spend some time when we do Hamlet talking to the kids about what some of the basic tenets are of Catholicism, because the characters are Catholic, and it is such a big deal to the ghost of Hamlet that he didn't have the opportunity to make his last confession, and so he is living in purgatory because he's not purged of all of his sins, right? So I'm assuming, and we know what that means, right, that we're still in that vein, right, that these are still characters from that same universe. So they're in that same realm of they're all, living that kind of same religious lifestyle. So why are they there in some sort of purgatory type place, right? What is it that they have done? Which I honestly feel like this was brilliant on Stoppard's behalf, because if you just read Hamlet and think, well, you think to yourselves, well, poor Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, they were sent off to England. They had no idea. They just thought they were taking Hamlet there, and then they wind up being killed. They never come home, right? Lucky Hamlet winds up on a pirate ship, safe from everybody else, but they're dead. And so the fact that he introduces some ideas about what happens on the pirate ship and then what leads to their death is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Where are we? What are we even doing here? What great existential questions we ask about ourselves every day.
Yes. And also, I love, so this is kind of backtracking. I love the way Stoppard integrated the actual lines from Hamlet into his play. When what is occurring in Hamlet is occurring in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, I love that they are the actual Shakespearean lines.
Yeah.
I think that's really keeps it true to its, to its vein of existence.
And it always shows up in these snapshot glimpses.
Yes.
It's kind of in a way going on in the background of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern's observations. But the irony is in the actual play Hamlet, they are in the background as just kind of the irrelevant observers. But now in their play, they're just kind of, bystanders to the great trauma that's going on around them.
That's really kind of what led me to my idea of how you could incorporate this into your classroom. In those moments where they're in the background in Hamlet, where we really don't know, well, what is it that they're doing? Why? You could pull from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead and say, this is what is being speculated is going on with the two of them while this is happening in Hamlet. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
You could kind of integrate the two into one cohesive piece.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't allow you the time to cover the entire play, but it would at least be parts of it could be introduced to the kids in a way that, because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are not even secondary characters, those silly, pawny sponges they are. But it does give them some substance. You know what I mean? It gives them some meat on their bones.
We get so stuck into this. I mean, every human, I'm sure, does this. We get stuck into this view that I'm the main character of my story because I'm relying upon my perceptions of the universe right now.
Are we not? I have a mug that says I am the protagonist.
Right. You are the protagonist of your story. Everybody is. So in the story of Courtney, whether you're a comedy or a romance or a tragedy or whatever, or a history or whatever your life play is.
I think I'm absurdist comedy.
I really believe that the times we're living in right now have to be absurdist comedy masking tragedy.
Yeah.
They have to be.
For sure.
But you, as the protagonist, are going about your day surrounded by, your secondary characters that you ping off of, and you've got your third tier, the background observers. But those kids that are around you are main characters in their story, and you are but one secondary character of their life. And that's, I'd never thought about that before, but that's a really great way of looking at this play and Hamlet, is that the main characters are becoming background characters to somebody else's story to inform them.
That really backs up the whole idea that when we tell them perspective matters in a piece of literature, look at what perspective can do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their perspective. Hamlet's perspective is, what we typically see, but then this is another perspective.
Yeah. And you, I mean, just by virtue of being a teacher with so many kids that you spend so many hours and amounts of effort with, you intersect with so many lives. I think, I'm not going to speak for you, but I know from my angle, oftentimes you wonder, was this worth it?
For sure. I think I had that very conversation with my husband yesterday. You wonder all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I, what am I to these people? So.
But we're told that this matters. Yeah. We're told, hey, we couldn't do this without teachers like you. And then we get slapped with funding cuts and, other things that we're indoctrinating. And yet your life intersects with so many other lives that may or may not feel like it matters at that time. But we learn on a long enough timeline that in many instances, your interactions with people had unforeseen repercussions, unforeseen, consequences or whatever. You may have drastically altered a person's life because of one afternoon where you had an interaction with them that changed their perspective on everything. And they now are going in a completely different direction. But from your perspective, they were just the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern that were in your class that you were having a conversation with. Well, kids, let that be a lesson to you then. Be careful about the casual walk you take through this life, because Rosencrantz and Guildenstern thoughtlessly follow along with things in their lives, and they wind up on a ship bound for their death. So be careful.
Yes, this is true.
The choices you make.
Did you find it ironic how many times I made note of the fact that they use the word dead, like just constantly. They use the word dead over and over and over again, yet they can't figure out what is going on with them. They can't figure out, hey, where are we? What's going on? But they talk about if we were dead. They're constantly saying it. And they're another thing that I thought was very interesting is they're constantly arguing about, here we go, are you ready? They're constantly arguing about the position of the sun, which to me was very symbolic. Because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and that is a metaphor for the the human life, right? And they're always arguing about where is the sun right now. We can't tell where we are or what time of day it is because we don't know where the sun is. Is this east? Is this west? They don't know where the sun is because they're trapped in that purgatory. They're not alive, but they're not really dead. They're dead, but they're not dead, right? Like their soul's not been decided because they're in that limbo.
That is a really sharp take. I never even thought about that.
And if you notice, once they got on the boat, they start talking about the seasons, about how they're going through the seasons. And Guildenstern makes the comment, we'll be in the winter of our lives soon. Yeah. And it's like almost once they get on the boat, they realize, hey, wait, something's not right. And maybe we're not doing so well after all, right? Because the player's there, and he displeased the king. Hamlet's there, and he displeased the king. They're there.
Something. Tragic characters are blind to the circumstances that they're in. Something. Tragic characters don't see the trouble that they're walking right into because of blindness. And yet it was right in front of them the whole time. The whole time. That makes me think of, we teach so much of that in the sophomore year. Basically, sophomore year in high school, ELA is tragedy, like from start to finish.
Nothing happy. I tell them that. We are not, there's not going to be one happy thing we read here. Not one.
One of the short stories that we start off with is Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. And Louise Millard is suddenly gripped by this possibility, I might be able to live the rest of my life happily.
Mind and body free.
But she's looking out a window at these, what seem to be images of possibility and hope, that there's a little patch of blue sky and, there's birdsong. But the text very subtly says that she looked out the window toward the west. And the day is bright outside. So while she is in the full daylight of her day, she is unwittingly looking ahead at death.
At death. Is, thinking about it now, there's so many, okay, I'm not going to nerd out on us. There's the sun and the direction of the setting sun and the rising sun. It's mentioned so much. That's one symbol that I would really like the kids to have solidly under their belt when they leave 10th grade.
Yeah.
Because it's so important.
Right. I think I'm in the middle of that right now of why do these things matter outside the classroom?
Right.
Like it's all well and good that you're doing your lessons in your comp book and you're writing your character analysis, but if you just do it for the assignment and then forget to make informed assumptions about the guy you're on a date with or the guy you're hiring to build your house or the guy you're electing to office or whatever, if you're not being a good judge of character, then we wasted all our time on this lesson in here too. Like it matters beyond the classroom because.
Right.
Yeah. What's another thing you wanted to talk about?
Okay, so are you ready?
I am.
This is my big theory.
Here we go.
I fought myself
buckled in.
yesterday to not say anything to you about it at lunch, but here I am. Okay, I'm going to read this to you as I wrote it.
Okay.
All right. So I feel like the whole point of the play, right, is that they are living, quote unquote, in a purgatory-like state where they're given the opportunity to make different choices when it comes to delivering Hamlet to England. Like they open the letter and there's stupid fodder between the two of them. And they find out, oh my God, we're not just taking him to England to make him not be a problem for Claudius anymore. We're really taking him to England to make him not be a problem for Claudius anymore. They're going to kill him once we get there. They're going to cut off his head. They have a choice right then. They even talk about it. Oh my gosh, he's been our friend our whole lives. And we have a choice to make here. We have this letter. Are we going to follow through with this? Or are we not going to follow through with this? And they choose to fold that letter back up, put it back in the pocket, and resume on as though everything is normal. So they have the opportunity to make different choices when it comes to delivering Hamlet, their lifelong friend, to his death. They justify their actions for not letting him know what's really going to happen. And that seals their fate and traps them in this sad and painful loop. They made the conscious choice not to intervene. And then I think it's the last line in my copy, maybe, 126.
Yeah.
The last line they speak. Yes, it is. Guildenstern says, "We'll know better next time. Now you see me, now you..." So my thought is that they're going to keep repeating it until they make the right choice. Because as a Catholic, the whole idea of purgatory is that you stay there until you right the wrongs that you did not right in life. People either pray for you to help you get, yourself to heaven, or you have that time to work on I used to tell my students in Catholic school, the quality of your soul, right? So you have that time to work on those things that you lacked in life. They're going to keep, this is just my thought, they're going to keep repeating it until they make the choice to stop Hamlet and tell him, we're not going to England because they're going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, what a great metaphor, Catholic or not, that we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over until you make a conscious effort to break these cycles in your life. I think Haston on our last episode about fences was saying something about how Troy Maxon was repeating the same kind of problems now through his son that he had experienced. And he's like, why do we keep doing these things? A lot of it's generational, but, I'm going to keep making the same mistakes until I make a conscious effort to stop doing that. So is that a story of hope that even in the afterlife, we have the chance to change?
For sure. Right? From my perspective it is, but
isn't that also kind of like an outlet for tragedy?
Yeah.
That Aristotle wants this to be a therapeutic session of,
yes,
there but for, their mistakes, you could be better. You could
can
live
do
a
better.
life that's better.
Stoppard saying you have the opportunity to make the right choice, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't make the right choice. Then Hamlet comes along and takes the letter out of their pockets and changes it, which we knew he was going to change the letter, right? He tells us in Hamlet he changed it and sealed their fates. But we don't know when we're reading Hamlet, hey, wait, they figured out what was happening beforehand.
Yeah.
And they could have changed the course of the entire direction of the play. Because let's just think. If they had said, hey, Hamlet, we know that you're being sent to England to your death, right? And we're going to try and stop this, then what could have been different back at the castle?
Mm-hmm. Well, in our last few minutes here, I was trying to think, like, how do we advocate using this in the high school classrooms of any level? Like, my initial thought is I'm never going to give up Hamlet in favor of something like this. But I want to maybe like use it as a capstone experience where it's like, now we know all of this. Let's look at one day of talking about absurdism in life, and we're going to watch Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and do something reflective about that.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Or, I don't know, find an excuse for a field trip to go watch somebody performing it, right?
Yeah.
That would be fun. Overall, what would you tell somebody who's considering on using this in their classroom?
I would say go for it. Because my opinion is you can try something, and if it doesn't work, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everything's not going to go smoothly every time that you try, you know?
Yeah.
You never know, because kids are different, classes are different from year to year, not ear to ear.
Could be ear to ear, too.
It could be between the ears. From year to year, even from block to block. What my first block class might be totally into, my fifth block class is not going to dig it at all, right? So you may come across that one block that really enjoys this whole process and really can see, for me, what I think is important is that they see beneath the comedy to what is going on, but in the quote-unquote lives of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Because there's plenty to chuckle about in this play, but it's also like you get the moments of gravitas, like even hear Guildenstern's last words of, nah, never mind, we'll get it right next time.
Yeah.
And then his words are cut off because will we or won't we?
Yeah. And then they pan to everybody who's laying there dead. Everyone is laying there dead, right? So did everyone got it wrong? Right. Everybody got it wrong.
Maybe that should be the advice we give to teachers who are thinking about using this in the classroom. You keep wandering in the same path. You're always using the same curriculum every year. Maybe you should make a conscious choice and change it up by doing this.
Or you'll be in purgatory.
With a scripted curriculum.
Oh, wow.
Second Stage is a Free Zone radio production, recorded in Sparta, Tennessee. If you enjoyed the show, please give it a like, share it, subscribe for more. Word of mouth is the best advertising. And if you want to hear more, look up our other podcast with honors, now in its newest season, and our brother podcasts, A Dead Man's Books and Haston Curation. You can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you consume great podcasts.
Hey everyone, my name is Drew, and I want to talk to you about my show, A Dead Man's Books. The show was created with the mindset of whenever I pass away, as morbidly as that sounds, that my children would inherit my books, and of all the things that I'm going to pass down to them, I think that that's the one thing that I want them to make sure that they keep and go through on their own time, but I want to be there next to them whenever they read these things. And so I created a podcast so that they could go back and listen to me and my friends and other people as we read through these books and what we had to think about it. But it's grown to so much more. We've got authors we interview. We talk about everyday life. We talk about how literature connects to life. All of those things in one place. And now we want you to come along with us and join us. This is a podcast not just for my kids, but for everyone who loves to read, everyone who loves a good story, everyone who's a parent, everyone who's a teacher, everyone who just enjoys literature. this is a place to come. So come join us every Monday on A Dead Man's Books.